Right now, information about the Nintendo Switch 2 is scarce. However, this year marks the 5th anniversary of the original Switch, so it's past time for a proper update. While the Nintendo OLED was released last year, it did not go far enough in terms of making changes to what we already had in the base Switch. In Switch 2, we'd like to see a 4K display, more storage, and of course, more accessory ports. 5 years after the Nintendo Switch, are they ready for a sequel? Before we continue, kindly hit the notification button to be notified when next I post new videos. Let's get started without further ado. So the Switch was released in 2017, 5 years ago, which seems like a long time. It is a long time, but it also spanned that strange period that was also the pandemic, so it feels like time collapsed a little bit. For me, I'm sure for many people, but the Switch is still a very popular gaming console. Nintendo released an update to the Switch last fall called the Nintendo Switch OLED, which has some much needed upgrades, but most of them on the outside of the Switch, such as the OLED display and a better kickstand. What Nintendo hasn't addressed is the stuff under the hood. Could Nintendo finally redesign? When I look back at Nintendo's history, it appears that this game console refresh cycle for Nintendo is about every 5 to 6 years, so I intend to switch at some point soon to make it the console that I'd like it to be. The Nintendo Switch was released in 2017. You had the Wii U in 2012, then the Wii in 2006, then the GameCube in 2001, and then the N64 in 1996. Before that, it appears that we will be getting a new Nintendo console at some point. Right now, the Switch appears to be going strong, but when would Nintendo consider refreshing the hardware? If you're looking to buy a Switch, I think you should just get one of the ones that are out there because there's no indication that Nintendo is going to make a new console. They haven't announced anything, and on the other hand, Nintendo doesn't tip its hand, and those announcements can come completely out of the blue, and that's the other question. Even the Nintendo Wii U, with all of its new ideas, was attempting to build on the success of the Nintendo Wii. Given the Switch's strong identity, it appears likely that the Nintendo will continue to build on its success. Sales have been strong, and they've been building a lot of game console sales through a lot of families, some of whom may be purchasing multiple Switches. The things I want for the Switch are significant improvements in how I play games and how well the games look. Already Nintendo has addressed some of the issues that I had previously, such as the kickstand, and it wasn't the important one to fix, but I thought it was helpful. A software update that allows Bluetooth audio connections, and the display looks nicer and crisper. The gaming chip. The Nintendo Switch is playing games on the Tegra-based chip that has been around for a while and hasn't fundamentally changed now. Nintendo's games, their first-party games, and the Nintendo Switch currently play games in 1080p on a 720p television on the handheld, and this hasn't changed even with the Switch OLED. It's still 1080p to a 720p television on a handheld. There's been a talk for a while about a 4K gaming on a Switch. It's possibly some sort of dead kit that people are working on, if they're even thinking about developing some sort of system that pushes further. You'd think that someone would be working on developing games for it, and that'll take time. Could that be in some sort of next version of the hardware? Who knows? I'd love to see that because that would mean that the other games, the cross-platform, could finally play on the Switch better and would enable cross-compatibility of more games and just make the pipeline easier. However, would that mean some sort of tiering level? The Nintendo 3DS was a completely new console. Another thing I'd like to see is an improved set of joysticks. The Nintendo joystick console was very innovative when it first came out in 2017, and they haven't changed since. There are all sorts of strangenesses now. Many people have had drift issues with those little controllers, where they slowly break down over time and the buttons feel crammed. The trigger is the thing that irritates me the most. The triggers are not analog. They are these click triggers that don't match anything else I've played with on other consoles, and I believe that many games make use of analog triggers. I'd love to see some sort of pro design where the Joy-Con gets reinvented, It becomes more reliable and adds some of those things like analog triggers which improve the haptics of that vibrating feedback even further. It would be great if those were analog. If the original joystick console were compatible with the new Switch, but who knows, it does feel like the controllers are due for some sort of reinvention at some point. 1080p appears to be the natural way to go, especially if you're going to 4K on a TV and have 1080p on the handheld for some sort of next generation Switch. Beyond that, I don't have much on my list. In fact, I'm not sure if I'd consider Nintendo reinventing their gaming concept all over again right now. The Switch and its portable dockable style of gameplay appear to be ideal, it would be cool if the dock could play the game without the Switch. I guess what I mean by that is that it could function as its independent console. I mean, I've already thought about what if there was a Switch console that wasn't the tablet. And you kind of inevitably think about that to just play games like a little box connected to a TV. You could think of that as being useful if you wanted to have some sort of multiplayer element or something like that. It's kind of two consoles for the price of one, but other than that, I love the formula for what the Switch is, and I think other companies should adopt that. 5 years has been an incredible run, but sooner or later, we're going to hear about what Nintendo has in store for us next. And ideally, it will be something that builds on the already existing Switch platform. If you have any thoughts on this, please leave them in the comment section below. That's all for today, folks. Thank you for spending some time with us, and if you found this video interesting, please make sure to hit the like button and the notification bell, and subscribe to our channel to get access to more interesting videos from us. Until next time, goodbye.